Fort Worth, Texas, Monday morning. The glass lobby of Halberg International buzzed with corporate rhythm heels clicking, coffee sloshing, voices bouncing off marble walls. Executives zipped by in tailored suits, barely glancing at their reflections, let alone at the woman in the burgundy uniform mopping near the entrance. Her name tag read Denise Atwater. Most didn't know that. To them, she was part of the background, silent, efficient, invisible. But today, something shifted. Jonathan Kellerman, CEO of Halberg, strode in from the parking deck, his mind already juggling vendor contracts and quarterly projections. That's when he heard it. Not the mop, not the phones. A voice. Sharp, fluid, speaking Mandarin with the kind of natural cadence you only pick up from living it, not learning it. He stopped, turned. Near the touchscreen directory, Denise spoke with an elderly Chinese man, her hands gesturing with ease, her voice calm and confident. The man's face lit up understood, helped, seen. Kellerman blinked, processing. He'd seen her before quiet, polite, always late at night. But never like this. Before he could process, she turned toward a delivery guy holding a clipboard. She switched to Spanish. "Gracias," the man said, stunned. Then, without missing a beat, she addressed a vendor, unpacking mislabeled equipment. French, precise, lightly accented, flawless. Kellerman's jaw tightened, not in anger, but in astonishment. This wasn't a trick. This wasn't luck. This woman was a linguistic powerhouse, hidden in plain sight, pushing a mop across executive floors. He stepped forward. "Excuse me?" She turned, startled but composed. "Yes, sir?" That was Mandarin, right? "Yes, sir." "And Spanish? And French?" She nodded. "Also Portuguese, German, Arabic, Italian, Swahili. And I read Latin, but I don't really count that. 9 languages." No boast in her tone, just fact straight and steady. The kind of confidence you earn, not announce. Kellerman stared at her, words catching up to his thoughts. "What's your name?" "Denise Atwater." "You free for a few minutes?" She hesitated, reflex, not fear. The kind of pause that comes from years of being overlooked. She nodded slowly. "Yes, I guess I am." They rode the elevator in silence. Midway up, she broke it. "I've worked here 13 years. Never been invited upstairs." He offered a soft smile. "You might be surprised how quickly things can change." The elevator dinged. Citrus and leather filled the air on the executive floor money, if it had a scent. Denise walked beside him, drawing glances. No one said a word, but eyes widened. A janitor on this level? With the CEO? Inside his glass-walled office, she sat across from him. Not impressed, observant. He leaned forward. "I didn't expect to be having this conversation today." "I didn't expect to be here," she said. He asked the question that had been burning since the lobby. "How does someone like you end up mopping floors?" A pause. Then she spoke slowly, steadily, peeling back layers. "I was born in Toledo. My dad was a pipe fitter. Mom, a nurse's aide, worked hard, pushed school like it was salvation. Got a full ride to Kent State, studied linguistics. Halfway through my master's when my mom got sick, came home. Then my dad passed." She folded her hands. "I had a baby, no money, no help, took whatever jobs I could. Grocery stores, temp work, then a janitorial supervisor here offered night shifts. It paid the bills. Let me be there for my daughter." Kellerman didn't interrupt. He listened. "I didn't stop learning," she said. "Borrowed textbooks. Listened to foreign news while cleaning. It kept my mind sharp, made me feel human." She met his eyes, not asking for pity, just telling the truth. Most people never ask. They see the uniform. They assume. That last word assume hung in the air like smoke. Kellerman leaned back, floored. A storm of guilt rose in his chest. All these years he'd flown in consultants, hired overpriced firms for diversity initiatives, global strategy sessions, and the person most equipped for it all had been cleaning his conference rooms. "You ever think about doing something else?" he asked. "Sure," she shrugged. "But it's hard to dream when rent's due." He nodded slowly, reached for his notebook. "What are you writing?" she asked gently. "Ideas." But one idea had already rooted itself in his mind, and it wasn't small. That day, his calendar blurred. Numbers on spreadsheets faded into Denise's voice fluent, precise, unseen for so long. By late afternoon, he was back on the service level far, from mahogany desks and skyline views. There she was, restocking cloths, just finishing her break. "You again?" she asked, smiling. "Couldn't stop thinking about our talk," he replied. "I have a favor to ask." She wiped her hands on her shirt. "What kind of favor?" "A group from our Sao Paulo office came early. Translator cancelled. Can you help?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes." Minutes later, in a sterile conference room, Denise switched into Portuguese like it was her mother tongue. The room transformed. The visitors leaned in, relaxed. She bridged a cultural canyon with grace, humor, and perfect tone. One exec leaned over to Kellerman. "She's the best we've had this year." "Where'd you find her?" Kellerman smiled. "Right here." Back in the hallway, he asked softly, "You ever done professional translation before?" "No time. No credentials. My daughter needed me more." "And where is she now?" "Nurse. In Tempe. Paid her way through. Stubborn like her mama." They both smiled. For a moment, it wasn't CEO and janitor. Just two people, standing on opposite sides of a story, finally meeting in the middle. Before she returned to her shift, Denise said quietly, "I didn't do anything special today." Kellerman raised his brows. "That's not how it looked to me." She smiled, modest, and walked away. But Kellerman just stood there, still, because something had changed. Not just for Denise, for all of them. Tuesday morning. Denise had just finished wiping down the east lobby windows when her supervisor, Ron, tapped her shoulder. His voice was uncertain, like he was still processing what he was about to say. "Mr. Kellerman, he wants to see you again." Denise blinked. "Did I do something wrong?" Ron shook his head. "Didn't say, just told me to send you up." Up. That word hit different today. She washed her hands, smoothed the front of her uniform, and took the long walk across the building. But something was different. Eyes followed her. Whispers trailed behind. A receptionist's smile at a real one. She stepped onto the elevator and rode it alone to the top floor. This time, Jonathan Kellerman was waiting by the window, sipping black coffee. The skyline stretched behind him like a promise. "Come in," he said, not turning until she stepped fully into the office. "I've been thinking," he began, setting the mug down, "about talent, about how much of it we waste. How many people never get a shot not because they're not capable, but because no one ever looks." Denise said nothing. Her face didn't soften. She'd learned that easy praise could be camouflage, but she listened. "I want to create a new role," he said. "One that didn't exist before. Something this company needs badly." Her brow furrowed slightly. "Cultural liaison for international affairs. Someone who can speak the languages, read between the lines. Someone who can navigate with empathy and insight, not just protocol." She blinked. "Once. You're qualified. More than most of our leadership team, honestly." Silence stretched between them. "You serious?" she asked quietly. "As serious as I've ever been. I don't have a degree. You have something better, life, experience, 9 languages, and the grace to make people feel seen." She stood a little straighter, but the uncertainty lingered. "Why me?" Kellerman didn't blink. "Because I watched you solve 3 problems in 3 languages before 9 a.m. yesterday. Because I'm tired of walking past people doing twice the work for half the credit." She folded her arms tight against her chest. "You know what people are going to say." "I don't care," he said simply. She let out a breath long and slow. "I've never had a title, never worked in an office." "You'll learn. I don't even have the wardrobe. We'll send a clothing stipend. HR's already on standby." A pause. Then she chuckled a dry, amused sound. "You really thought of everything, huh?" "I'm trying." She looked down at her hands. Then back at him. "And my shift downstairs? Who replaces me?" "We'll find someone," he said, "but no one can replace you." That landed somewhere deep. A moment passed, then another. "You sure this isn't some kind of favor?" she asked one last time. "No," he replied. "This is long overdue recognition." Her voice was steady now. "All right then, let's see what I can do." They shook hands. It wasn't just a job offer. It was a rewriting of her story. But stories don't change without noise. By Wednesday morning, the whole building knew. Denise Atwater, janitor, night shift, was now an executive-level liaison. Whispers danced from the mailroom to boardrooms. Some were proud. Good for her, they said. Others clenched their jaws. In the staff lounge, 2 marketing assistants leaned close over kale salads. "I've got a master's in international business," one hissed. "Been waiting 2 years for a promotion. She was scrubbing urinals last week." "Please," the other scoffed. "It's Kellerman trying to look woke." That sentiment echoed louder in Slack threads and whispered huddles. Not everyone was clapping. Thursday. Denise walked into her new office on the 12th floor. It was modest, just a desk, a computer, a small potted plant. But to her, it looked like another universe. The HR rep had just finished onboarding when Denise asked softly, "Can I keep my old uniform?" She didn't want to wear it just to remember. That afternoon, her first real meeting came with Victor, the head of international operations. He walked in stiff, with a clipboard tucked under his arm and doubt written all over his face. "So you're the new liaison?" he said flatly, not offering his hand. "That's what I'm told," she replied calmly. "You have corporate experience?" "Only from the outside looking in." He didn't smile. He dropped 3 thick folders onto her desk. "Contracts from Italy, partner issue in Dubai, vendor problems in Sao Paulo. Think you can manage?" She stood. "I'll need a few hours to review, but yes." He left without another word. Later, that night, Kellerman stopped by her office. She was still there reading, annotating, working like her rent depended on it. because once it had... How's day one? She leaned back. I've had worse. Victor giving you a hard time? He doesn't scare me. He smiled, but then her tone shifted. More vulnerable. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why now? Why me? You could have just given me a bonus and moved on. Kellerman leaned against the doorframe. His voice dropped lower. Because I see myself in you. She raised an eyebrow. You were a janitor? No, but I was invisible. My dad fixed cars. No one thought I belonged in a corner office. I've been fighting that shadow my whole life. She nodded. Slowly. Now you're the one holding the flashlight, she said. Exactly. Another pause. I'll be honest, she admitted. I'm nervous. Good. Means you care. There's people in this building who won't like this. They'll get over it, he said, or they won't. Either way, we're moving forward. He started to leave, then turned. You have a story, Denise, a real one. And now, you've got a platform. When the door clicked shut behind him, Denise looked around the office again. This wasn't a fluke. This was a beginning. She opened the desk drawer, pulled out her old janitor badge, and placed it in Sedano to forget. But to remember exactly what it took to get here. Friday morning. The sun was barely up when the email landed in every inbox at Halberg International. Subject line. A new chapter begins, please. Welcome, Denise Atwater. Sent by Jonathan Kellerman himself, it was brief and clear. No fluff, no spin. He outlined Denise's role as cultural liaison for international affairs, her unmatched fluency in 9 languages, and her ability to bridge cultural and communication gaps. He didn't frame it as charity. He framed it as what it was. A brilliant hire. By Monday, everyone was watching. Some with admiration, others with scrutiny, but all with curiosity. At 10:00 a.m., Denise was invited to a high-level meeting with a delegation from Morocco. The company's North African expansion had been stuck for months' mistrust, miscommunication, silence. Denise walked into the boardroom in a soft beige blazer, sat at the table, and opened her mouth. Fluent Moroccan Arabic flowed from her like water. The room changed. You could feel it. The air, the posture, the eye contact. It all shifted. She wasn't just translating words. She was translating dignity. After the meeting, one of the Moroccan partners approached her, placed a hand gently on his chest, eyes wet. No one's ever done that for us, he said. Not in our language. Not like that. She simply nodded. You matter. That's all. That same afternoon, a quiet gesture was made. Outside the company's main training room, the old metal plaque came down. In its place, a new sign. The Atwater Room. In honor of unseen brilliance. No ribbon cutting, no cameras, just a change. But for those paying attention, it meant everything. The culture shifted. Slowly, quietly, but powerfully. People began to seek her out not just for her linguistic gift, but for advice, clarity, confidence. She was no longer a custodian of Florge, she was a custodian of morale. Interns began dropping by her office just to talk. She never talked down, never dismissed anyone. One intern, a shy Vietnamese student named Bao, asked her nervously, How did you learn all those languages? She smiled gently. One word at a time, same way you will. She didn't just do her job. She made people feel like they could do theirs. But not everyone was applauding. By Thursday afternoon, she was summoned to the 17th floor. A cold, windowless room. Waiting for her, Eleanor Craig. Board member, old school, sharp eyes, sharper voice. Without looking up, she said, "Miss Atwater, have a seat." Denise did. "I've reviewed your file," Eleanor continued, tapping a manila folder. "No college degree, no corporate training, no certifications." Denise's voice was calm. "That's correct. You were a janitor here 3 weeks ago." "I was." "Help me understand how you are now handling international affairs." Denise leaned in slightly. "Because I speak the languages. I know the cultures. In 1 week, I've resolved 2 vendor conflicts and recovered a deal from Morocco that's been stuck for 3 months. Eleanor's pen stopped tapping. "You think this company should be run on instinct and charm?" Denise didn't blink. "No, ma'am. I think it should be run on results." For the first time, Eleanor paused. Denise continued, voice even and clear. "I don't need to be liked, but I do need to be useful. And I am." Eleanor stood slowly. "You're a gamble." Denise nodded. "My whole life has been one." That night, Denise didn't go home right away. She walked across the street, sat on a cold bench, and stared at the tower that once ignored her. Now it looked back. She called her daughter. "Hey, Ma, everything okay?" The voice chirped. "Yeah, just needed to hear your voice." They talked about groceries, the neighbor's dog, the new show on Netflix. And when they hung up, Denise sat in silence, then stood, then walked back across the street, taller than she'd ever walked before. By Friday, the whole company felt it. Another note had appeared on her whiteboard. 3 words, no signature. "We see you." And that's when everything began to change. She was no longer just Denise. She was a mirror reflecting back what people had ignored in themselves for too long. 1 month later, Kellerman joined her for coffee in the break room. "I've been hearing good things," he said. She sipped her cup. "Been ignoring the bad ones. You're making waves." "That a compliment?" He smiled. "Around here, that means you're doing something right." He paused, then added, "I've been thinking about launching a training program for internal talent. People working invisible jobs. Think there are more Denise Atwaters in this building?" She nodded. "There are. They just haven't been seen yet." "You want to help me build it?" She didn't hesitate. Already started in my head. 3 months later, it was real. The company launched a new initiative. Voice Inside. A pipeline for internal workers to rise, to speak, to lead, to be seen. Language training, mentorship, visibility. All seeded by Denise. 6 months later, she stood on a stage in Cincinnati. Logistics Leadership Summit. A room full of suits and strategy decks. She told her story. Not with tears, not with fanfare, but with truth. "I was never just a janitor," she said. "I was fluent. I was capable. I was ready. But no one ever looked long enough to see it." So the next time you pass someone without a title, ask yourself, what are you really missing? The room fell silent. Then it stood, a standing ovation. Afterward, a young man approached her. "My mum's a housekeeper," he said, voice cracking. "She speaks 5 languages. I used to be embarrassed to say that. Denise placed a hand on his arm. Don't ever be ashamed of where you come from. The only thing to be ashamed of is staying blind to brilliance. She left that summit not as someone who'd risen above, but as someone who'd redefined what rising even meant. Because brilliance has no dress code. Intelligence doesn't need permission. And greatness? Sometimes it walks past you quietly, holding a mop